What's going on, parkour? We're doing another little tutorial video, right? So, just recently, Wingsuit got an update where it gives you combo now. So, more people are probably going to be buying it. And I thought I would do, a little tutorial on how to actually use it effectively and be a good Wingsuit player, kind of. Not that I'm a pro or anything. I kind of suck at this game. But that doesn't mean I can't give you tips. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you Wingsuit tips. You're going to listen. And then you're going to go, play Wingsuit and get those level 5 combos, So the key to Wingsuit is kind of just consistency. You just need to know what you're doing, where you're going, and you need to be able to edge jump and keep your speed really well, which sadly is stuff that I can't really help you get, because it's just kind of stuff that's hard to explain, Like, map knowledge isn't something I can teach you, it's something that you'll gain from playing the game yourself. So there's kind of really two ways that you can play a Wingsuit. It's no thrust capacitor and with thrust capacitor. I'll give tips for both of them because, this is a Wingsuit tutorial. Why wouldn't I include thrust capacitor? It's like the main way to play Wingsuit, The main differences between no thrust capacitor and thrust capacitor are without thrust capacitor, Wingsuit is a little bit more hectic because you have to think in a smaller amount of time, which I'll get into later. And with thrust capacitor, you can cover larger areas without having to land, so you can chain way more, way easier. So thrust capacitor is definitely better and easier, in my opinion. It has faster gameplay that I think feels a little bit smoother. So if you're going to be playing with Wingsuit for, like a long term, like you're going to main Wingsuit, I would heavily recommend buying thrust capacitor or grinding to unlock it because it is so good in combination with Wingsuit. Really quick, to use your Wingsuit, it's whatever your back gear keybind is set to. Mine is right mouse button. You just press that to bring it out, and you press it again to get it away. You can also press shift or whatever your prepare is to get rid of your Wingsuit. So the first order of business, I guess, for learning Wingsuit is to learn how to do any sort of dash. It doesn't even have to be a drop dash. You just need to know how to gain speed to use Wingsuit. So over here by the arch spawn is where I would recommend testing out gears, I guess, and learning how to do any sort of dash, just because it has a nice wide area for you to do really anything on. So the main picks for Wingsuit would be grappler, mag rail, and gearless. Grappler is a pretty good pick for playing Wingsuit if you don't know how to do any drop down dashes, simply because you can wall run dash with it super easily. You just have to grapple on a wall at an edge and time it so that when it pulls you, you edge jump at the same time and just double dash like that. Mag rail being the other main pick is also pretty good for the exact same reason, and it's easier. So for mag rail, you press E and then space on a wall, and that'll do your wall run dash. It's really simple. So for gearless, sadly, there's no longer a way to avoid having to do a drop down dash to gain speed. So you do have to learn one of the speed vaults. Personally, I would recommend that you learn skydive because it's so easy to do, and you get your charge so you can do a downshift right after it. And if you need to learn any of the speed vaults or drop down dashes that are in Parkour Legacy, I just posted a video with most of them. All the main ones are covered in that video, so go watch that and then come back to this when you know how to speed vault or drop down dash. So once you've learned your speed vaults or drop down dashes or anything that you want to do, next what I would recommend you learn or get consistent with is chaining it, I guess you could say. So over here by arch spawn is still, you know, a really good spot to do it because there's two places to do it, right? So you want to do your speed ball, right? And then you want to do a double dash on one of these walls, right? And then you want to speed ball again, you know, just like that. And then you can chain them back and forth as well. And just get, you know, really consistent at doing it. And that can help a lot with Wingsuit. Speed vaults are super useful for keeping and adding your speed to Wingsuit gameplay, so you want to make sure that you're getting really consistent with them and also recognizing when and when you shouldn't be speed vaulting in your gameplay. So a good example of this is if you're about to run out of glide and you don't know or you're not confident that you can make it to the top of a building to edge jump or slide an edge jump, you can just glide next to the building at the correct height and just do a speed vault instead, and you will gain your speed. It's also fairly important to know the difference between a slide edge jump and a normal edge jump. One of them gives you height while the other doesn't, and height can be super useful to gain when you're using Wingsuit, so you want to make sure that you're using whichever one fits the occasion. So right here, for example, if I just do a normal edge jump and glide, it's not really that easy to grab the edge to do a speed vault. However, if I slide edge jump glide, it's far easier to reach the top to do a speed vault. A really good way to get height for Wingsuit is doing any sort of dash or anything that will give you speed and then flicking your camera upwards and it'll just send you up just like that. And then you can also go down from height if you just pull out your Wingsuit while you fall down, and it'll cancel all damage that you might take. Wingsuit can be preferable over wall boosting up large buildings because it lets you keep moving, and a wall boost can lead to full height combos, which are just really slow, and they can also just be a weak point. Full height combos aren't the easiest thing to do in this game, so it's definitely way better to just use your Wingsuit to scale a large building rather than doing a full height combo, just because there's really a very low chance that you'll fail it. Another reason you might want to do the Wingsuit height trick, I guess, is if you go to do a dash and you fail, you can easily just pull out your Wingsuit and flick your camera upwards and just get right back to where you started rather than, you know, dying or having to reset. So a point in Wingsuit that I see some new players struggle with is actually sliding on top of buildings to keep momentum, and I just want to show what exactly is killing speed and how you should properly be sliding on top of buildings. Something that could be killing your speed when you're going to slide is just touching the ground for too long. Sometimes it can look like you're touching the ground for just a second when that's still just too long. What you want to really be doing is holding shift to slide just before you touch the ground, but not so far that you don't end up sliding, or when you touch the ground, you want to slide as fast as possible. Another huge speed decrease when it comes to sliding is looking at the ground. You don't want to slam your face into the ground as it'll just drain all your speed. What you want to be doing is looking straight forward. You don't want to look up or down in any direction. You just want to look straight forward when you're sliding on a building. A couple other things that could be killing your speed during your Wingsuit gameplay could be turning too aggressively with Wingsuit while you have it out. That'll instantly kill your speed. Missing edge jumps, as well as taking too long to open your Wingsuit after an edge jump. That'll definitely eat your speed up pretty fast, so you want to make sure that you're pulling it out as soon as you edge jump, or close to as soon as you edge jump. You also want to make sure that you're turning after you deploy your Wingsuit. You don't want to turn before because it'll also kill your speed. So make sure that you're turning after you deploy your Wingsuit, not before. So with all the tips that I could think about for Wingsuit out of the way, I think it's time to start talking about thrust capacitor and the kind of gameplay that revolves around it. So earlier, if you remember, I said thrust capacitor is way faster than just no thrust capacitor, and that's because what thrust capacitor does is it stores whatever your latest highest speed was. So if you reach 250 speed, then your thrust capacitor will store that 250 speed for you to use later. And just as a quick example, I did the dash, I'm at no speed, and I can use my thrust capacitor again and get all that speed back. And this makes it super easy to stay at 250 speed, which is the speed cap as of right now, which just makes thrust capacitor gameplay much faster. A pretty nice upside of thrust capacitor is the fact that while it is faster gameplay in velocity, it can also kind of be like slower gameplay at the same time, because you can take your time to think in between edge jumping and using your thrust capacitor. So earlier I talked about how you could flick upwards with your wingsuit deployed to skip a full height combo. Well, you can actually do this doubled with thrust capacitor. So when you flick upwards, you get all the height, and then you can use your thrust capacitor to instantly gain all your momentum back and just keep on going. To add on to the flick method to gain height, you can do it with thrust capacitor to get even more height. So if you do the normal flick, you go really high, and then you add thrust capacitor onto it and you go even higher. Another thing that you can do with thrust capacitor is if you somehow lose all of your momentum by bumping into a wall or a pipe or missing an edge jump, you can use your thrust capacitor, if you have enough momentum, to get it all back. And this can be really useful for thinking about where you want to go. So you can just bump into a wall and then delay your thrust capacitor for like a good 3 seconds to think about where you're about to go. Another velocity related thing that's pretty similar is if you lose your speed by a badly timed edge jump and your thrust capacitor isn't at max speed, you can just use your thrust capacitor and then edge jump and use your thrust capacitor and edge jump again, and then you'll gain speed. You'll be back at 250 speed after that. So another use for thrust capacitor is you can survive pretty long falls just because of the fact that when you use it, you're technically landing, which will reset the height that you can fall at again. So with all that being said, I think this is the end of the video. I've talked about pretty much everything that I can think of that you might need to know to get good at Wingsuit, or at least know what you're doing to play with it. So, get out there. Get those level 5 combos. You're going to be able to do it so easy now. 22 minutes? Sure. But, it's easy, so go do it.